Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
Well, Elon Musk is now the richest person on the planet.
More than half the satellites in space are owned and controlled by one man.
Starting his own artificial intelligence company.
Well, he's a legitimate super genius. I mean, legitimate.
He says he's always voted for Democrats, but this year it will be different. He'll vote Republican.
There is a reason the U.S. government is so reliant on him.
Elon Musk is a scam artist, and he's done nothing.
Anything he does is fascinating to people.
Welcome to Elon Inc. I'm Max Chafkin. It's the holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and here at Elon Inc., we have a very special two-part set of shows for you. Today, and so you know it's mid-December when we're recording this, is the first of two. It's our episode of reflection. Think of this as your pre-Christmas, pre-Hanukkah ritual. You can gather with your family and think about the year that was for Elon Musk. And when we think about it ourselves, to be honest, an enormous year, an epic year, both for the guy and also for this podcast, because we've been following it. Then next week, we're going to kick back for New Year's. We're going to crack open some champagne, eat some oysters, and play some games as we look forward to 2025. To do that, we've got some of our heavy hitters, Dana Hull, Bloomberg's Elon Musk reporter, and Sarah Frier, the big tech boss here at Bloomberg News. Dana, Sarah, welcome.
Hey, Max. Thanks for having me.
Okay, and I'm so excited about this. We have a special guest, Ryan Broderick, who runs the newsletter Garbage Day, which I never miss, and I know a lot of people on this podcast are big fans of, and the podcast Panic World, which is about basically internet-related moral panics. Ryan is an expert in all things digital culture and kind of the way that intersects with business. Ryan, thank you for being on Elon Inc.
Thank you. I'm for saying such nice things. I'm very uncomfortable.
It's all true. And, you know, happy holidays. Just before we get into the meat of the show, I just wanted to kind of get your perspective. I mean, you're writing, I sort of quickly went through the last few episodes of Panic World, you know, Mr. Beast, QAnon, something called Perfume Talk, and the possibility, I guess, that it's moving to the right politically, which I didn't know was possible. But I'm kind of curious, like, in this kind of world of digital culture and influence, the kind of world you live in, where does Elon Musk kind of figure, and how is that changing?
I like to think of him as sort of like the last remaining right-wing influencer that has the juice. A lot of them have lost a lot of influence because, like, you know, YouTube is changing up its algorithm. Facebook isn't as powerful as it used to be as a publishing platform. But Elon Musk, because he owns X and because he has the money to kind of do ridiculous stuff nonstop and say crazy things and all the rest of it, he can still command attention, and that makes him very valuable. So I sort of see him as sort of like the mega node for right-wing internet right now.
That's cool. Well, and I assume you're paying attention to him to some extent, although I'm guessing maybe not as closely as the rest of us are, or the rest of us on this podcast who are doing it for a living.
Yeah, I know. I consider him one of my, you know, one of the many cast of characters on the internet, but I try to keep him separate to make sure, like, you know, I'm not writing about him too much.
So, like, what would be like a non-political equivalent in that cast of characters?
Okay, you know how, like, in the early Game of Thrones episodes, Dany's, like, off in the desert doing, like, her own thing? I sort of treat him like that. Like, he's always got something going on, and sometimes it matters, but I try to separate him out from the larger mix.
Okay, got it. The Daenerys, Mother of Dragons,
yes,
to the Game of Thrones that is our world. All right, so, okay, first question, and listeners, these were submitted, and I have them in front of me, and we're gonna go through them, but basically we asked Dana, Sarah, and Ryan, and me to answer a series of questions looking back in the year. And the first one was, and Dana, I'm going to start with you, a one-word description of Elon's year. 2024, in a word. Go.
Epic.
I want you to tell me how it was more epic than previous years. Because, like, every year is an epic year for Elon. So, like, why was this year particularly epic?
Yeah, and I feel like I'm parroting the language that he himself loves to use. Like, epic is not a word that, like, I throw around, but it's one that Elon likes a lot. But by all measures, he had an incredible year. Like, Tesla stock is like the market cap of Tesla is above 1.3 trillion. SpaceX's valuation is now 350 billion, making it the most valuable private company in the world. He is by far the wealthiest person, like wealthier than ever. Like he's now above 400 billion, and his companies are doing well. And then aside from all that, he basically is the de facto vice president. He helped elect President Trump. He went all in. He campaigned for Trump all across Pennsylvania. He's now basically enmeshed at Mar-a-Lago, has the ear of the president, has been tapped to kind of lead this Doge commission. Like, he's at the kind of height of his wealth, his political influence, and his corporate power because, you know, this has also been a year where a lot of his rivals have had really crappy years. Boeing has had a horrible year. General Motors just basically announced that they are no longer pursuing their robotaxi. Like, all of his competitors in the business arena have had really hard years, and his businesses are actually doing pretty well.
Dan, I had almost the same answer as you. I wrote triumph, maybe a little less Elon-y. Sarah, you also kind of were in the same zone, right?
Well, I picked the word political, and it also is a reflection of just how I looked back on this Elon Inc. project. When this started, when we were devising this podcast, it was like around the time that everyone was so surprised that the Starlink satellites had become this tool in the war in Ukraine, and Musk had the power to turn off or on the internet in a war zone. And that was kind of a moment for us realizing, wow, this guy is like, he's got his hands on the pulse of geopolitics right now. And like, he can really make things happen. And what does that mean for the richest man in the world who owns a social network, who owns, you know, the satellite company and this very influential car company and the only means for the US government to get to space? Like, what does it mean that he has this power? And I think that this year is like, oh, it means he can help get a president elected and then like sit with him at every meeting as he's building his cabinet and, you know, basically shadow him in a typical Elon Musk launch mode. So yeah, extremely political is what I would say about Musk here.
Okay, Ryan, what about you?
I cheated.
Lay it on me.
I put 4 words down. I believe I wrote exactly. Let's see here. Dumb and unfortunately successful.
Okay, so you cheated, but actually I'm intrigued by this answer just because I feel like successful is difficult to quibble with. Unfortunately, that's a question of opinion, but I'm curious why you said dumb.
So I sort of see this whole year as a massive existential gamble for Musk, both in terms of, let's say if the Harris team had won, like, is he looking at a lot more scrutiny on his various businesses and how they all interact? Is he looking at more sort of crackdowns on X and how that operates, all the rest of it, right? And it felt like, mask off this year of saying, like, I'm going to endorse Donald Trump because he's always been this sort of political chameleon. So in a lot of ways, I sort of saw him putting all of his chips on the table this year and saying, I'm going to get behind this. And I think if Trump had not won, we'd be having a very different conversation about, like, his perceived success this year, because I think there'd be more questions about what might happen next.
I totally agree with you, but Trump did win, and he won all 7 swing states, and they also won the Senate and Congress. So now they've got a trifecta and the Supreme Court. So whether it was dumb to put the chips all in or not, it was like a big bet that has paid off for Musk so far. Right. Like, are you saying that it's dumb because it was just dumb to make such a big bet, or that it's dumb because there are risks to this bet that haven't played out yet?
I think that there are unknown risks. I also just think much of what he does publicly is dumb, but that's just my personal opinion. Like the Doge naming of the Department of Government Efficiency and sort of his various viral stunts that I think he uses to kind of mask his political moves. This year, it felt like he kind of aligned them all at once.
I spent a lot of the year, like Ryan, thinking that Elon was making mistakes and that this was like obviously a big bet, but a bet with a lot of risk. And I think there are still risks, and it's like very easy now. We can talk when we get to predictions. We can talk about this, but like it's very easy to see. The stock is at whatever over 400. It's like nearly twice what it was not too long ago, and he's at the ear of Trump. But like it could definitely fall apart. All right, but we're segueing into pretty nicely into the biggest story of the year, and really, there's only one answer, and I think we had to listen to the answer before we hear from all of us.
Elon, 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 Elon.
And we all, in one way or another, brought up something around Trump and Elon Musk, but everybody had slightly different ideas about what part of this was the biggest. Sarah, why don't you lay your first one on us?
I think it was when he decided to form a PAC and donate millions to Trump. In the beginning, he was sort of lukewarm about it. He was like, yeah, 45 million to Trump. And then he was like, I didn't promise 45 million. And we had this debate. It's like, is he actually going to spend that much? And then, it turned out to be upwards of 250 million. He really went all in. And so deciding to get financially involved, even though that amount of money for him is like not much when you've got 400 billion, it was extremely significant in the race. And he also used it in a way that surprised us because he was going after the base. He was targeting people who already were in favor of Trump, just kind of a get out the vote effort, which is very different than what a lot of campaigns do in trying to convince independents, convince swing voters. It was like, yeah, if you're a white man, get to the polls.
Yeah, I mean, I remember there was this whole thing in the middle of the year where we weren't sure if he really was giving money. And the Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg had reported $45 million a month, and Elon was denying it. I mean, Ryan, I'm actually curious, did you think he was going to go, rewind to July or whatever, when this reporting started coming out? Do you think he was going to play such a big role, financially?
I did not. The question that I've had about his political involvement all year is, would he have donated as much if X was as socially powerful as Twitter used to be? And so I sort of view it through that lens where, a lot of his dealings with the PAC and the giveaways and sort of dumping money into the Trump campaign, I do wonder if that was to sort of kind of make up for the fact that X doesn't really have the reach it used to. And so, because he wanted to be a player, but I did not think it would be as extensive as it was.
Maybe there are three aspects of his political engagement this year. And one of them, Sarah just mentioned, is the money and this PAC. Another one was X, which Ryan just brought up. And then there was a third, which was essentially his campaigning. And Dana, that was for you, right?
Yeah, I wrote electing Trump because I think, in politics, everyone always talks about the October surprise. And for me, the October surprise was how publicly Elon campaigned for Trump. And you look at the month of October, just look at the calendar. He goes to Butler, the site of the first assassination attempt, and is jumping around on stage. He hosts a series of town halls across Pennsylvania, from Lancaster to Pittsburgh. He does this $1 million giveaway, which is just basically a way to get free media for the fact that he's doing this, and gets people who maybe wouldn't normally have signed his petition to sign his petition. Then he uses that list to actually get people motivated to go to the polls. And then, the big coda to the month, Madison Square Garden, you and I were sitting there together, and there's speaker after speaker after speaker. And we were like, oh my God, when is Elon going to speak? And then it was like, holy cow, J.D. Vance speaks. And then there's other speakers. And then there's Elon. And then Elon introduces Melania. And then Melania introduces her husband. He had top billing at the MAGA Fest of the year. He was fully the most powerful surrogate Trump could have asked for in an election that largely hinged on voter frustration about the economy and inflation and immigration. You have Musk, who has been sounding all of those same notes for months now, on the trail, lending credence and lending his personality and his vibe to the campaign. It was just sort of the best thing that the Trump campaign could have ever asked for. And it really made a difference in all of those swing states. I mean, his PAC knocked on 11 million doors.
I answered this question very similar to you. I was my biggest thing was the Butler rally and really the rallies. And now as we're talking through this, I don't know if I was actually answering it as Elon's biggest story or my biggest story. It was the Madison Square Garden rally, these incredible shows and the way that he put himself in the middle of it. And in the way, we made this miniseries, Citizen Elon, and we talked to this historian. We were asking him, what is different about Elon Musk versus other rich guys? And the thing he said is the campaigning. This is a guy who's doing it out in the open rather than, like Shale Nadelson just writing a check and then essentially disappearing. Ryan, you actually had sort of an out-of-the-box idea here for the biggest Elon story of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I zeroed in on like the new information that's currently coming out about Elon Musk's involvement with RBG PAC, which was sort of this super PAC funding like a dark social campaign to kind of muddy the waters around abortion rights. And it kind of comes back to this idea that I had mentioned slightly earlier, which is that I think this year, part of Elon Musk's big gamble and part of his like sort of like push for a political power was making X feel valuable, even though, you know, anyone who has ever been on it can tell you it's not nearly as powerful as it used to be. And so my major question throughout the entire election is, okay, if the conversations aren't happening on what used to be Twitter, where are they happening? How are people getting informed about the election? Is Elon Musk connected in any way to that? And it seems like, yes, he was. And I find that to be very interesting, that he is clearly involved in other ways that we weren't aware of. And so I find that underreported sort of a curiosity.
That's a really great point. And we also don't know what other dark money is sloshing around.
Right.
I mean, that's the whole thing about dark money. Like, it's not really traceable. And thanks to Citizens United and so many other court cases, like, he could have put way more money in other ways that we will never know.
I think it's interesting, too, that you think that this is kind of to make up for the irrelevance of X, because in Elon's mind, it probably still is quite relevant, because it's this like echo chamber for the things he cares about.
Yeah, I got to stop, actually. I'm glad Sarah brought that up. Like,
do you think that? Do you think he thinks that it's successful?
I think it is successful. Like I think that X is more relevant than it was a year ago.
No way, really?
Yeah, no, really.
That's wild.
And I guess the reason I would say that is it never had huge reach.
Twitter? No, never. Yeah.
Right. But what it has now, and maybe there was a moment like in 2011 or something when it was like, you know, like when the Arab Spring or whatever was playing out on X, where maybe that was a higher level of relevance than it has today. But I mean, it is at the center of conservative politics. Like, it is where like it's where conservative lawmakers are talking to supporters. It's where like memes are bubbling up on the right. It's like what it was in 2010 or 2011, but just on the right. And I think that is actually, in certain ways, like an achievement.
That's interesting. I don't disagree that it is clearly the new hub for like America's right wing throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, as we saw with Springfield, Ohio, right? They're sort of using it as like a SNL writer's room kind of thing. But I do question if it can accomplish what most of, I think, Elon Musk's diehard supporters want, which is to essentially invade and kind of take over and influence what they understand as the media. And that, I think, it has become actually less influential. And I don't see the same sort of ability for Twitter to put its thumb on American media and generate millions of pieces like it could 5 or 6 years ago, which is, I think, why Elon Musk bought it in the first place. But I don't disagree with you about sort of it becoming this new right-wing hub online.
I also don't think that it's going to be the Trump megaphone that it was in the first presidency. I think we're going to see a very different version of it. And part of that is just like main character theory. Like, you can only have one main character on a social platform, and it was Trump, and now it's Elon. And does Trump really want to play that game?
Oh, their breakups could be spectacular. I can't wait.
Okay, so let's move on to another category, Sidekick of the Year. I've asked each of you before we started taping to send me the name of your nominee for the Sidekick of the Year, the person who has been key to Elon Musk's success, who you think of when you think of who is sitting next to Elon Musk and offering him support. We've gathered tape from each one of these 4 sidekicks, and I'm going to play the tape, and the people who did not pick that sidekick are going to have to try to guess who it is. And there's going to be a scoring system, and we're going to carry this through across both shows. If you get it right, you get 2 points.
Okay, great.
Okay.
I love points.
All right. This first clip comes from our very own Sarah Frier. Let's hear the first nominee for Sidekick of the Year.
What should I do?
Save America.
And?
Help Trump.
Okay.
Okay, Ryan.
Am I identifying what sounds to be some sort of toddler or baby talking, or am I identifying the more adult voice in the clip?
You are identifying who in the clip is a nominee, a very credible nominee for Sidekick of the Year. This is a hard one if you're not following this closely, although I know that Dana will steal this answer.
Is this one of his sons?
It
the
is.
One that he keeps, the Daniel Plainview kind of kid he keeps bringing around, like They Will Be Blood? Like, that's what we're talking about? Let me smash my computer keyboard and figure out what his name is. But yeah, I can't remember. Is it
Dana?
Techno Maximus?
His name is X. This is one of his children with Grimes, and it is the one that he definitely kind of trots around. He brought this child to Capitol Hill. It's kind of like take your dad to work day. And so he has joint custody. So they'll be like week on, week off. So you'll see him a lot, and then you won't see him. Then you'll see him a lot, you won't see him.
But yes, X has been to Auschwitz. He has been to the U.S. Capitol. He's been to the rocket factory. He's been
a little boy's favorite things.
Everywhere Elon goes, X goes.
He was at Madison Square Garden.
Yes, he was. All right, our next sidekick of the year. This is Dana Hull's nominee. Let's listen to the tape.
The thing is, I was at a 3-day fashion conference in Marrakesh, and I dare not talk politics among fashion people. So I said, when I get back, I might ruin my modeling career, but I'll help you save America. And that's why I was so active in the last week.
Well, thanks.
All right. Sarah Frier.
Oh, it's Mom. It's May Musk.
That's right. Dana, you want to refresh our memory of the context here?
Yeah, so, Elon has always been close to his mom. His mom has always been a regular at, Tesla events. But this was, the first year that we saw May become, sort of a pundit in her own right, right? She went on Fox News, talking about how she also used to be a Democrat, but was now voting for Trump. And then this clip is actually from Election Day itself when, as Max will remember, the polls are closing and Elon is on his private jet flying from Texas to Palm Beach to go to Mar-a-Lago. And he hosts this impromptu X Spaces that hundreds of thousands of people tune into. And then all of a sudden, May calls up and chimes in and is on her son's Twitter Spaces. And
it was adorable, honestly. It was really great.
It's a fascinating dynamic.
Getting some looks. I just thought it was very relatable when he and his, audience of Twitter people were sort of talking about politics stuff. Somehow they started talking about May Musk, and then all of a sudden you heard, "I'm here," and she just jumped in. It was kind of like an advertisement for the beautiful spontaneity that is X Spaces, Elon Musk's real-time chat platform.
She's my favorite SNL cast member. What can I say? I think she's great. I wish my mom played political defense for me on Twitter. That would be great. She has an account, but I've told her to never tweet. Please do never tweet. So yeah, I support May Musk doing that, I guess.
All right, we've got 2 more clips, and the next one comes from me. So you all have the opportunity to guess it.
I get asked this question sometimes about what is Elon like in private, and I think the main thing to understand is just kind of what you see is what you get. The things he says in public are the same things as what he's saying in private. It's just maybe, we'll hear them a little sooner.
Okay, Ryan, who's that?
Is that?
I'll give you a hint. He has a government job, or he has been designated to have a government job, assuming, Trump duly takes office and nothing falls through.
I was going to guess the egg, Mark Andreessen, but I can't place the voice. It's kind of a huskier voice, isn't it?
It's a great guess. Sarah, what do you think?
Is this Vivek?
Oh, no, wrong.
Too
my
husky.
Gosh, no, that's
it's
not.
Way too husky of a voice.
Dana?
I'm stumped. I can't pick
David Sachs?
Can you
yes!
Oh, David Sachs. Did you say All In is a tease for that? No.
No, I said he's not David Sachs, co-host of the All In podcast.
That's right. Okay.
Guys, the fact that no one knows David Sachs' voice, a famous podcaster, future crypto czar, obviously the White House press office has a lot of work to do in the coming weeks. All right, we have one more clip that I feel like we're going to all get instantly, but will still be interesting.
Just consider this. Our parents and grandparents, they went to Mars, they went to the moon with pocket calculators and slide rulers. Americans can't even build enough housing for our citizens now. I think that suggests something fundamentally broken. And what I like about Elon Musk is that he reminds us that America is a nation of great ambitions, of great dreams. And I believe that it is the solemn obligation of the American civilization to conquer the stars. We are meant for great things in the United States of America, and Elon reminds us of that.
All right, Sarah Frier, this is an easy one, but I'm giving it to you.
Oh, man, I'm the worst at voices. Is this J.D. Vance?
Yes, it is J.D. Vance. And Ryan, tell us why you picked Vance.
Okay, so obviously I was thinking about Vivek because he is literally Elon Musk's sidekick right now. But there's really nothing keeping Vivek involved because, like, Doge doesn't exist. It's not real, and he could just fire him if he wants to. He can't really get rid of J.D. Vance. But J.D. Vance has, like, obviously lowered his status in the operation enough that he's posting AI-generated photos of him as Trump's wife. I don't know if you've seen that, where it's like a photo of them at the Thanksgiving dinner table.
I did not want to see that.
And he, like, photoshopped his face over the wife next to Trump. So, like, clearly in his mind, like, he has already accepted the second fiddle role. So I don't know if you're familiar with, like, Batman lore, but, like, oftentimes there's, like, an older Robin and a younger Robin, and I kind of see it like that. So it's like Elon's in the middle there, and then J.D. Vance has already accepted that he's, like, underneath Elon.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought about this quite a bit.
It's very clear to me that Elon is the de facto vice president because he is going to Capitol Hill. He is, meeting with the lawmakers. He is weighing in on these cabinet picks at Mar-a-Lago. Like we haven't really seen J.D. Vance that much, and when we have seen him, he's gotten like the worst jobs. Like it was J.D. Vance who like basically dog walked Matt Gaetz around the Hill, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was like that same very day he withdrew his nomination for the Attorney General role. So he's getting like the crappy jobs. And to be fair, being vice president is kind of a crappy job. Like it's like you have to do all the grunt work and all the bad things, and you get the portfolio that nobody wants, which is the challenge that Vice President Harris has. But I don't know. Musk isn't really. It's like de facto vice president sounds wrong because vice president isn't even that powerful. He's more of like the consigliere or the first buddy.
It's funny because I've had a lot of people say like, oh, J.D. Vance and Elon Musk, they must hate each other, right? Because clearly...
Could you imagine the drama?
Because, like Dana said, when we were at Madison Square Garden, J.D. Vance is kind of buried between like Dr. Phil and like a painter. Really, like he's in the bowels of the program. Elon Musk has like a really good spot, and that's kind of played out over and over again. And I think that is like totally wrong because Elon is like J.D. Vance's best friend. It is like the Batman Robin thing I think is right. Like J.D. Vance, first of all, when you're vice president, Dana hit on this, like you don't get to do important stuff. You're kind of cast aside. What you really need to do is stay out of trouble, avoid getting caught in too many scandals, and just kind of coast to the next nomination. And that's basically where J.D. Vance is headed. He's going to be the front runner to be the next Republican candidate. And as long as he stays close to Elon Musk, who, as far as we know, based on reporting and such, they have a good relationship. Elon Musk was advocating for J.D. Vance. So J.D. Vance goes into, 2027, 2028, as people start thinking about who the next person is, as, vice president, immediate qualification, and good friends with the number one donor. So, I think he's going to be in great position as long as he can just bring himself, to deal with the constant, potential humiliations that come with being vice president, especially vice president in this administration.
Sarah might have more thoughts on this, but I feel like Elon Musk and J.D. Vance are very important for each other because they're both the closest articulation we've seen of this sort of like reactionary tech CEO wing of the Republican Party. And like they're very aligned that way. Like Vance, from as I sort of have read and understand it, was sort of groomed to be this guy that could represent the Silicon Valley dark enlightenment guys in Washington. And Elon Musk has never like totally aligned with those guys, but he likes enough of the same stuff that it feels like they can help each other kind of define what republicanism is after Trump can't run anymore.
So just a quick recap on the scoring. Right now, we have Sarah with 2 points, Dana with 3 points, and Ryan back, but still in contention with 1 point. I split the points on the X one. You each got one. All right, let's move on to most underrated story of the year. And Ryan, I want to start with you. Tell us what the most underrated story of the year for Elon Musk was in 2024.
Okay. I have to say that this is totally unconfirmed. It's an internet rumor. I understand that we're in a serious journalistic institution right now, but I'm going to go for it. There is a rumor that Elon Musk is not actually playing Diablo all the time and that he has hired a ghost player to keep his score at number one. I have nothing to back this.
You need to break that story. You need to confirm that.
Look, if there's anyone listening here who can give me the details I need to lock this thing down, my email is ryan@garbageday.email.
And do me a favor and CC Elon Inc. at Bloomberg.net.
because we can team up on this one.
Yeah, this might be a collaboration. Yeah. I mean, Dana and Sarah, what do you think about this? Ryan's right. Very little evidence, except for the general thing that, like, this guy is running 6 companies. Yeah. He's, first buddy. He has unprecedented political influence. He's a parent. Where would he possibly find the time?
Well, he doesn't really sleep, and he plays video games to wind down or when he's on his plane, right? You'll notice that his tweet storms are often when he's in the air, and I think maybe he games when he's on the air, too. And I think he games a lot. But I love the idea of a ghost player. Like, I didn't even know that was a job. Like, I've heard of ghost writer, but a ghost player, that would be amazing.
We thought he was training X to take over the business, and maybe he's training X to maintain his Diablo score once he's old enough.
I don't believe it. I think this is like the thing that he's playing those games. I just think like this would be such a weird thing to fake. I mean, it's part of why it'd be such an amazing story. That's why I believe
it. That's why he would fake it. I don't know. I like conspiracies. Part of being an online person.
I wish that I had known that we could put out rumors, because I have great. I mean, I have a great unsubstantiated rumors.
Dish. Let's go.
All right. Let's move to Sarah. Sarah, what was your most underrated Elon Musk story of 2024?
So I really liked Dana and Sophie's big piece on Elon Musk's fertility obsession and how he's basically trying to make more babies in the world. And he's talked about that quite a bit on the internet. So I like that. But I think that maybe the most surprisingly underrated piece where this news broke, and then within an hour, nobody really talked about it anymore, was Elon's regular contact with Vladimir Putin. And it was just the Journal had that story, and people were like, wow, what a big story. And then what? Have you guys heard anyone talk about it in the week since? He can get away with anything.
He's Teflon Elon.
What's important about it to me is just that he's as tied in with the Trump administration as he's a private citizen, right? He can do whatever he wants. He's a business owner, and he can do things. He can talk to China as a business owner, and he can talk to Russia as a business owner. And no one's going to brief him or stop him or make him an ambassador to the United States. But other countries will see him as a representative of the U.S., so it's going to be tricky.
Right. He was at Notre Dame.
Sarah, I've never been convinced that this was such a huge scandal or something. But also it does seem like there's a lot here. And it's something that no one really has explored. Dana, over to you. Your underrated story of 2024.
So this is a story that was broken by Laura Kolodny at CNBC, who is a friend of mine and a fierce competitor. But she had a great piece about how Elon basically had ordered these NVIDIA chips, and they were supposed to be for Tesla, but he diverted them to X.AI, his AI startup, and he sort of poo-pooed it away the Tesla factory wasn't really ready and couldn't accommodate these chips, so why have them just sit around when they could go to work? But it was just yet another example of how his companies are not really independent. They're all fused together. They have overlapping people involved, overlapping engineers, and Elon will rob Peter to pay Paul and move resources around as needed. And this was just sort of an example of him kind of moving around the resources. There's been nothing in Tesla's proxy or any filings about this conflict or potential conflict.
All right. I have 2 underrated stories that I want to offer. The first one is sort of more serious. Second one is less serious. So the first one is, and I can't believe no one brought this up, but Elon put a chip in some guy's brain.
Oh, yeah.
That guy. Okay, and now listen, let's be fair. There have been some problems with this chip. There's a lot to talk about here. But he's playing chess with his thoughts. And that just happened at the beginning of the year. And it's not like we've all forgotten about it. It's just so many other things happen that it's just weird.
I genuinely did forget about that. That's actually wild. What a year.
Now, if you catch up, you'll see that there have been, and we've talked about this on the podcast, the threads, it's a little bit, I don't know, gnarly. The threads from the device popped out a little bit. It's definitely still an experimental technology, but I mean, it is a thing. And they're looking to put more chips in more people's brains. This is going to be a thing, I think, that we're going to talk about in 2025. The second one, and this is a very specific moment from the Madison Square Garden event that I have a little tape to play for all of you.
USA, 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 USA.
Ryan, I think you're the one who suggested this, or that I encountered this first, but the mispronunciation of the USA chant is fascinating.
Yeah, the only way you can interpret that is that he's never tried it before. He's maybe never heard it before, but like it's USA, USA. But he can't get the inflection right. And yeah, fascinating to watch.
Okay, that's it for the first part of our year-end special. Ryan, Sarah, Dana, happy holidays. Thanks for coming.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Happy holidays.
But listeners, don't worry. This trio is coming back in a week for more games, and you're not going to believe this, but the scores already accrued on the Sidekick portion of the game will carry over. And we're going to make some predictions for 25. It's going to be a really good time, and we will see you then. This episode was produced by Stacey Wong. Anna Mazarakis is our editor, and Rayhan Harmansi, our senior editor. And if you believe it, the idea for this show also came from Rayhan. Blake Maples handles engineering, and Emma Sanchez fact-checks. Our supervising producer is Magnus Henriksen. The Elon Inc. theme is written and performed by Taka Yasuzawa and Alex Seguiera. Brendan Francis Newnham is our executive producer, and Sage Bauman is the head of Bloomberg Podcasts. A big thanks to our supporters, Joel Weber and Brad Stone. I'm Max Chafkin. If you have a minute, rate and review our show. It'll help other listeners find us. And we will see you next week. Happy 2025. Thanks for listening to the Elon Inc. podcast. If you never want to miss a story, become a Bloomberg.com subscriber today. Check out our special intro offer right now at Bloomberg.com/podcast offer, or click in the link on the show notes. You'll also unlock deep reporting, data, and analysis from reporters all around the world.